More than 900 runners suffer injuries in this morning's Hong Kong marathon races. A government plan to introduce 10 tobacco control measures in phases. And 5 Thai hostages released by Hamas reunite with their families back home. Hello and welcome to TVB News. I'm Melissa Hekalea. The Hong Kong Marathon was held earlier today. This as 3 mainland runners were disqualified after wearing bibs that didn't display their designated numbers. As of noon, more than 900 people suffered injuries in the event. 14 of them were sent to hospitals, with 5 in serious condition. Timothy Lee tells us more.
2, 1.
Participants set off from the starting point of both the full and half marathons on Nathan Road in Tsim Sha Tsui early this morning. Hong Kong's favorite celebrity runner, Chow Yun-fat, a regular in the sporting events, raised resident spirits as he engaged in friendly banter with fellow runners. He noted the good atmosphere of the marathon this year, adding that he believes his record has improved even further this year. This year's route passed through Tsing Kwai Highway, the West Kowloon corridor, before reaching the Western Harbour crossing and finally Victoria Park. Despite weather authorities' initial forecast of a drop in temperature to around 10 degrees Celsius, the relatively warm weather was a welcome surprise for many runners. Some participants from abroad noted the challenges of running on the city's hilly terrain.
I didn't expect that many hills in the bridge, and the tunnels also were really hard. And it's the first time I do the full marathon in Hong Kong.
It was hard. It always is. The Hong Kong course is very hilly, and the hill coming out of the harbour tunnel is always a killer.
Many runners from abroad said they did not expect the relatively warm weather during the marathon. They said the weather conditions and arrangements of the event brought out the best of their performance. But the pleasant weather was somewhat overshadowed by the number of disqualifications this year. This as 2 mainland runners, He Yingbing and Sun Xiaoyang, who placed first and second in the half marathon, were stripped of their titles after wearing bibs that did not display their designated numbers. Another mainland runner was disqualified for similar reasons. Over the course of the event, at least 900 people were injured, with most having sustained mild injuries. Several felt unwell after crossing the finish line and required to be brought away on a wheelchair or stretcher. Meanwhile, Kenya swept the podium of the men's marathon race, with Bethwell Kipkemboi taking first, while Belarusian Volha Mazuranak was the winner of the women's race. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
Secretary for Health Lo Chung-mau has announced plans to submit a bill in April to introduce 10 tobacco control measures in phases. Speaking with TVB News, Lo said non-menthol flavored cigarettes may be banned next year. Jackie Lin spoke with the health chief.
The government proposed a rollout of 10 tobacco control measures in June. Some measures have sparked debate, especially on the ban on flavored cigarettes. Speaking with TVB News, Secretary for Health Professor Lo Chung-mau said the administration aims to table the initiative to the Legislative Council in April. But the implementation dates of the 10 smoking controls may vary. It will first introduce stricter penalties for the sales of duty not paid cigarettes next year. There will be a duty paid labeling system to differentiate legal cigarettes from illicit ones. That will be followed by a ban on non-menthol flavored cigarettes. Lo did not specify a timeline for the menthol ban. The measures will also apply to flavored shisha. Lo admits 40% of smokers currently smoke flavored cigarettes. Over half of them opted for the menthol flavor.
The government is planning to allow the menthol cigarettes first and having the ban come in phases. Why that?
Over 70% of the younger generation, when they start smoking, the first puff is a flavored cigarette. Menthol cigarette has a longer history. And so our plan now is to, first of all, restrict the sales of non-menthol cigarettes.
But the government has set sights on cutting the smoking prevalence rate to 7.8% in 2025. Would the relaxation kind of derail the target?
Well, we set this target in 2018, and I think this is a very aggressive target. WHO is actually suggesting a revision. But we will still take 7.8 as our target.
Under the proposals, travelers, including Hong Kong residents, can still bring in 19 sticks of flavored cigarettes duty-free or up to 20 packs of duty-paid flavored cigarettes for personal use. The government is also studying whether the 20-pack limit should be allowed based on the days of travelers' visit to Hong Kong to prevent abuse of the exemption through multiple entries. The import, selling and buying of e-cigarettes have been banned since 2022, but it is still legal to possess them. But Low noted a rise in using the e-cigarette devices to consume illegal substances, etomidate, also known as space oil. That is why he said the government plans to ban the outdoor possession of e-cigarette cartridges first. That is to facilitate enforcement action in public places, as it can involve more legal complexity to make relevant prosecutions at indoor locations. Jackie Lin, TVB News.
Hong Kong Post, which is handling more than 1,000 parcels meant to be delivered to the United States, says it has requested clarification from the U.S. Postal Service. The city's postal service also says parcel delivering services from Hong Kong to the U.S. remain suspended. That's despite Washington's announcement that it's delaying its earlier decision to end the policy exempting parcels worth less than $800 from tariffs. Hong Kong Post previously made inquiries to its U.S. counterpart about the delay, but has yet to receive a response. Hong Kong Post noted that the U.S. authorities' multiple policy changes within a week have sown confusion among residents. It's urged Washington to clarify its decision. 5 Thai farmers were reunited with their families in Bangkok after being held hostage by Hamas for nearly 500 days. They were released last month by the militant group after being taken with dozens of others on October 7, 2023. David Garrett reports.
The 5 farm workers had been waiting, praying for this moment to be back in Thailand and to see their families. One drops to his knees as his father greets him, hugs and big smiles through tears of joy. The 5, whose ages range from 27 to 36, were taken hostage by Hamas in October 2023. At the time, 30,000 Thais were working in Israel. Other Thai hostages were released in a previous ceasefire. The Thai government said they never gave up trying to bring these boys back. The foreign minister calls it inspiring. Friends and families stood in embraces for several minutes in the arrivals section of Bangkok's airport. Later, one of the hostages shared his emotions, Pong Sak Thayena, saying, "We are grateful, we are glad, just very thankful." The wife of one of the returning men is beaming. She says, "It is like a miracle, but I always kept hope. I told my children one day their father would come back." And an emotional father whose wife died says now his son has returned, he feels like he's got his life back. The 5 will now head to their hometowns. Until just a week ago, they'd been in captivity for nearly 500 days. This comes after 3 Israelis were swapped for 183 Palestinian prisoners. The gaunt appearance of the trio released by Hamas has been criticised by the Israeli government. 52-year-old Eli Sharabi was reunited with his siblings. Hugs and tears of joy here too. Sharabi unaware, it seems, that his wife and daughters were murdered in the Hamas attack, which saw him abducted. He was said to have asked where they were when he arrived.
The sparkle that is always in Ellie's eyes and the smile that is always on his face was gone. He looked disoriented and confused, and we just can't even imagine what's going on inside him. So the joy of him being alive is very much tempered by the scenes that we saw and the condition that we've seen.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu again vowed to destroy Hamas as he welcomed the hostage release. Ayatollah Khamenei told Al Hayya the people of Gaza defeated the Zionist regime and America didn't reach any of their goals. America's deputy Middle East envoy is in Lebanon trying to make sure Hezbollah is not part of the newly installed administration. Morgan Ortagus sitting with new Lebanese Prime Minister Nawaf Salam, who has formed the country's first fully fledged government since 2022. David Garrett, TVB News.
Still ahead, Ukraine's president warns Russia's cooperation with North Korea will be expanding. A microbiologist says parents should not overlook their kids' flu symptoms as students return to school after the Lunar New Year break. And Macau records 1.3 million visitors during the Spring Festival Golden Week holiday. Welcome back. In an interview with the New York Post, U.S. President Donald Trump said he had spoken to Russian President Vladimir Putin on the phone to discuss an end to the war in Ukraine. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky announced he will be having scheduled meetings in the U.S. Zelensky also said Russia is developing new military production facilities. He warned Moscow's cooperation with North Korea will be expanding. Daniel Rell tells us more.
The New York Post reported that in an interview aboard Air Force One on Friday, US President Donald Trump said he had better not say when asked how many times he had spoken to Russian President Vladimir Putin. Trump told the New York Post he has always had a good relationship with Putin and he has a concrete plan to end the war in Ukraine. However, he did not disclose further details. Meanwhile, in his daily video address, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said Russia is creating new divisions and developing new military production facilities, adding Moscow's cooperation with North Korea will be expanding. Zelensky also discussed preparations for the upcoming Ramstein security meeting, which includes every member of NATO. Zelensky met with Admiral Giuseppe Cavo-Dragone, the new chair of the NATO Military Committee, who is in Ukraine in a show of support and to discuss preparations for Ramstein and Kyiv's defense needs. The Ukrainian leader also announced he'll be having scheduled meetings in the US. He thanked French President Emmanuel Macron for supplying Ukraine with Mirage 2000 fighter jets and the Netherlands for the supply of F-16s. Daniel Rell, TV News.
Europe's far-right leaders applauded U.S. President Donald Trump's agenda at an event organized by Spain's Vox Party in Madrid under the banner Make Europe Great Again. Those gathered included Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban, Italy's Deputy Premier Matteo Salvini, and French National Rally Party leader Marine Le Pen. Salvini and Vox President Santiago Abascal downplayed Trump's threat to hike tariffs on European imports. They said the European Union's taxes and regulations are a bigger danger to Europe's prosperity. The defense of Europe's borders against illegal immigration was another topic touched on by every speaker at the two-day event. Elsewhere, more than 200,000 protesters rallied in Munich, Germany, against far-right extremism ahead of the country's general election. The far-right anti-immigrant Alternative for Germany is in second place in recent polls. A clinical microbiology and infection doctor said parents should not overlook the symptoms of flu. The comment came as school year resumes on Monday after the Lunar New Year break. Mimo Singhai reports.
While the flu season has arrived in the city since January, health authorities on Saturday said it is uncertain when the flu activity will reach its peak. With Monday being the official back-to-school day for students after the Lunar New Year holiday, some schools said they will enhance hygiene measures to protect students from seasonal influenza. For instance, to clean classrooms frequently and ask students to check temperatures at home every morning. Receiving influenza vaccines will be the most effective way to protect children amid the flu season. However, a doctor said misconceptions about flu and vaccines remain in society.
People think that if they have contracted seasonal influenza during this period or recently, that they don't need to have the vaccine anyway, but that's not true. There are many different strains of influenza, and getting one type of influenza doesn't necessarily protect you against the next one.
One reminds parents not to overlook the potential risks of flu symptoms.
It's not something serious, so they may just, let it be cured by itself, but that's not true because we know that in some kids, influenza can progress and then cause a lot of complications as well. So the delay in attention, asking the kids to go to school even when they're feeling unwell, that is probably not the way to go nowadays.
As to when the flu activity will peak, the doctor said it is difficult to say at this stage. She said authorities will have to study the mainland data because a large number of residents have travelled across the border. Mums 9, TVB News.
Macau is striving to match visitor numbers this year to pre-pandemic levels. Sakura Ip spoke with the director of Macau's tourism office about her plans to leverage the city's strengths to boost tourism.
During the mainland's 8-day Spring Festival Golden Week holiday, Macau attracted 1.309 million visitors, a 3.5% drop compared with last year, but there was a 10% increase in international tourists. Maria Helena de Sena Fernandez, director of the Macau Government Tourism Office, told TVB News that thanks to policies such as one trip a week for Zhuhai residents and multiple entry permit for Hongqin residents, the number of visitors to Macau this year is projected to reach 39 million. That's on a par with pre-pandemic levels. Mega events such as concerts are expected to be major attractions.
Because of the new gaming contracts, the 6 concessionaires have to put quite a lot of their investments to make sure that the non-gaming elements are in place. So we're seeing all sorts of performing artists from the mainland, from Hong Kong, even from Taiwan, and also from international artists as well, coming to Macau to have either short-term performances or more, or more longer-term performances.
She also emphasized the city's commitment to establishing and revitalizing tourist attractions to better manage a visitor influx, especially among those who have visited Macau before.
Obviously, we will need to improve on transportation for those areas, as well as other kinds of, elements that can bring people to those areas. The 6 gaming concessionaires also have the task to develop or redevelop or revamp our old areas of town. So what we call the 6 different districts that they need to revamp and to promote. So this would give us more product, or more elements in order to try to, lure the visitors.
The city also plans to leverage visa-free and visa-on-arrival policies to encourage more foreign travelers to consider visiting Macau and cities in the Greater Bay Area. The tourism office will enhance overseas promotion to attract more international travelers to Macau and other Greater Bay Area cities. Sakura Ip, TVB News, Macau.
That's the news. Thanks for watching. Have a good evening.